What's up, John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got a question here. I'm not going to actually read this question because I get a lot of questions about all kinds of things that people want to change in their lives, right? So this particular question talked a lot about fitness and about how this person used to be in shape and how they messed up their diet and their arms messed up and their joints are messed up and their legs are messed up and all of these kind of things. They want to get healthy, they want to get a job, move out of their parents' house, you know, all these things, get their life organized, get back on track. And it was a really, really long email, right? And I get a lot of these emails, to be honest with you. And so I thought I would sort of address all of this sort of at one time and give you an answer for those of you that are trying to turn your life around, because I know this can be really hard to do, especially if you feel like you had your life on track, right? And then something came along and messed things up, and now you're sort of off track and you want to get back on track again. Right, so there's a couple of things here. The first thing I think that many of you in this situation do is you put it off. You say, well, next year or someday, or when this happens, then I'm going to start my new life of getting my life on track. And that's a really bad idea. And there's a couple reasons why, and it's kind of related to the second thing I'm going to talk about here. But the biggest reason why is because what's going to happen when you try and do that is, first of all, when that day comes, it's never going to be like you imagined, right? When you finally reach that day and you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, today is the day that I am waking up at 7 a.m. I am going to go run 5 miles. I'm eating healthy. I am going to use the Pomodoro technique and get a lot of work done. I'm going to start my new programming job. I am going to, stop my smoking and stop my addictions. I'm going to go to sleep on time, right? I'm going to do all these things. It's just not going to happen, right? And it's going to be overwhelming and stressful, and you're not going to stick with it, right? And so that kind of bleeds into the second reason. So first of all, the reality is not going to be true, right? The second reason, though, is because you're not going to stick with this. This is not going to happen. You can't make these drastic changes, life changes, overnight, right? And all at one time. You got to develop systems. I did this video on developing processes or systems and how important that is. And I talked about how I moved, right? And when I moved here to San Diego, that I had to sort of redevelop some of these systems, redevelop my routine. I'm still working on it, right? If you look around my office here, you can see I have a little credenza that has shown up, but my office isn't even set up yet. I had to get a monitor, I had to get a desk. I've got that. I'm getting the pieces. This lighting needs to be fixed because it's too spotlight-ish, right? There's a bunch of pieces that still need to be put into place in order to get this process in place. But I have enough of a process where I've got a camera, I can shoot video, right? I've got my gym, my workout, my routine, places to eat. I'm going to the dentist tomorrow. I'm going to get that set up. I do have an optometrist, right? There's all these little pieces in your life and processes you don't even think about. So the reason why I'm saying that is because, okay, it's, if you're in this situation, right, you got a lot of things that are messed up in your life and you want to change them for the better. Start with little things, right? You basically got two options, right? There's two ways to make drastic changes in your life. One of them is to go to boot camp. If you want to go to boot camp, right? And I'm actually thinking about setting one up here. I'm thinking about renting a space, getting some weightlifting equipment kind of near the beach here, and basically charging $10,000 for someone to come down for a week, and I will help you get your crap together. We'll train together, we'll talk together, we'll work on it yourself and all the kind of things that you need to work on, right? Obviously this is for is a dream right now. I'm not implementing that yet, but I'd actually like to create a boot camp, and the reason why is because I feel like that's a way to make drastic change in your life. So unless you're going to go to boot camp, right? And if you go to boot camp, that's fine, right? If you suddenly make total changes where you change your location and you change your entire routine and everything about your life, you move to a new spot and you make that total change, that can stick, and it can totally change and revamp your life. But most of us can't do that, right? And even if we could do that, most of us don't want to do that. That's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of severing ties. It's a painful process, and you got to do it for long enough for it to stick. So what can most of us do? Most of us, what we want to do is not the boot camp route, but we want to make small changes and get them to stick, and gradually build on them. There's actually, a really good book. I follow this guy named Tynan, and he's kind of interesting. He was actually, so I'm going to point to a few books here. We'll follow this trail. There's some really interesting trails here. So if you're familiar with Neil Strauss's The Game, right? If you haven't, it's a pretty good book, pretty good story anyway. There's some of it that I have some contentions with, but it's a decent story at least, right? And there's some characters in that book. I know quite a few of them actually in real life. It's kind of interesting, but Tynan is one of them. And he is just an excellent blogger. In fact, let's go to his blog, right? Tynan.com. I'm happy to promote this guy because he's awesome. I'd love to have him on the podcast sometime or on the YouTube channel. But anyway, he wrote a book that is called Superhuman by Habit. Really, really good book. This guy is smart. This guy thinks a lot like me. I just said he's smart and he thinks a lot. Obviously, he's smart if he thinks a lot like me, right? No. Anyway, he really dissects a lot of life, is very disciplined, builds systems and stuff. But one of the things that he talks about, and that book is really good, it's a self-published book, it's a very short book, but he talks about building these little habits. And this is what I do, right? This is how I construct my life. You don't get to the point, and not to brag, but you don't get to the point where you run 40 miles a week and you're lifting for 2 hours a day and doing these crazy diet and fasting until 5 and getting all this work done and all the kind of things that I do and all the YouTube videos and all this stuff by just suddenly declaring that's what your life is. What you do is you build little by little, and this is what Tynan has done, right? And this is what I recommend that you do. Is your life is messed up right now, okay? You got a lot of bad habits, you got a lot of problems, right? You got to start replacing those habits and developing good habits one by one. As soon as you develop a good habit, right? Again, this is just like that video I talked about on process. It's the same concept. As soon as you develop a good habit, right, and you really make it into a habit and you really get it down, it starts to go into an unconscious playlist, right? What I mean by that is our subconscious is probably more like it, although it's both unconscious and subconscious. What I mean by that is that you don't have to think about it. It just sort of happens, right? So that is a lot of my routine now. It sort of happens, right? I can't imagine not going for a run or not going to the gym, right? Or not fasting until 5 o'clock. It's not even an option. It's just how I live my life, right? And I brush my teeth. There's a ton of things like that. So these habits, you build them little by little. So you pick one thing, and here's what you do. Pick the thing that's bothering you the most, okay? Just one. You're not going to correct 500 things. Just pick one thing that's bothering you right now about yourself, about your life, about your condition. And let's just build a habit around changing that one thing. Just the one thing, okay? And do that until you've got it down. Until you've got it down so cold that you don't have to expend willpower, right? And that's the key. Willpower or mental energy to keep it up. Then you're going to see where you are, and you're going to take the next thing that's bothering you the most. You're going to get that one fixed in, right? I do this all the time. I still have stuff that's bothering me. I'm tweaking, constantly tweaking, finding out, okay, what is the thing that is causing me distress right now? What is the messed up area of my life that I don't have control over? How can I tweak this a little bit more? How can I get this new habit in place, right? And I work on that one thing until I get that down and I fix that, and then it's fixed, right? There's a lot of places where this applies. So this is how you do it, okay? Don't try, unless you're gonna do the boot camp route, like I said, maybe someday I'll open up my boot camp and it'll be a mecca of manliness. You'll come out here and we'll just like work on ourselves and train and, and learn all these skills and really, we'll focus on self-development. Maybe someday I'll create that boot camp. But for now, unless you're gonna go to a boot camp, one thing at a time. Pick the most important thing, pick the thing that's bothering you the most, build into a habit. Like I said, I'm going to plug that book again because I think it's really good. Superhuman by Habit. Read that book. Okay, I think it's actually better than Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit book because the Superhuman by Habit's more practical. You could read Charles Duhigg's book as well. It's a good book, but it's not as good as Superhuman by Habit. Thanks, Tynan. Really, really, really good advice. So anyway, that's it. If you're going to email me a big story of your life and tell me about all the messed up things, I'm going to probably say cool and archive it and point you to this video because that's what you need to do. That's how you're going to fix it. You're going to do it one thing at a time. All right, if you like this video, I have the one habit that you can develop. Maybe, I think it's a good habit. Watch my videos. So click the subscribe button to develop the habit of watching my videos. If you click the subscribe button, you won't have to work on the habit because it'll automatically happen, because whenever you go to YouTube, you'll see my videos. So that'll be one less thing that you have to worry about. So go ahead and click that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.